last time when we talked, you said that you have something interesting about animals, pets,
Yes.
and the
Yes.
similarities that they have with their owners. Because, for example, I don't have anything in common with my cat. I mean, he's had a really bad behavior, and he's white, and I'm not white. And I think that's pretty that it. What do you say about that?
I guess it depends if you get them from young age. My experience is because I know how to train them apparently, or I'm like a natural leader in some sense, and my animals kind of bend under my behavior a little bit, which I didn't realize when I was younger. I just kind of accepted them how they are. And my relationship with animals really started this love that I have towards animals really started around 7 years old. My grandmother got me for my birthday from the village, from someone had puppies, and she took me there and she was like, let's pick you a puppy, you get your own puppy, there's not going to be tied up like all the other dogs. And to me, I was afraid of them because they were barking. I was a child, you don't touch those, you don't pet the ones that are guarding.
Yeah.
So I went there to pick my own puppy, and the old, puppies come towards you, and there was a little scared one in a corner, and for some reason I want that one. Give me that one. So I got that one. I brought her home, and for 3 days I didn't leave her. Like, I was holding her for 3 days. Like, I would sleep with her, I would eat with her, I was holding her for like full 3 days, would not let her go. And she was tiny, like a couple of weeks. You know how at home they just give them away as soon as they can eat a little bit or walk around, open their eyes, So yeah, and then Dina, it was her name. She became my best friend, because when I would go to my grandmother's village, I had no one to talk to really. I didn't know the kids in the village. I didn't know, who they are. My grandmother had a shop, and everyone in the shop was older than me. And yeah, I just kind of hang out with the dog, and it was me and the dog. And I had a pink pram that was left since my childhood, and I would put my dog in the pram and I would walk around the dog in the village, and everyone knew me as the crazy kid with the dog in a pram. But she was so happy. She would sit with her paws like that. She loved it. And she was never tied, which was amazing for villages, because you don't really have dogs running around. And she turned out to be a very tiny little thing, looking very similar to Corgi, the Queen's dogs. Yeah, and so I trained her without realizing that I'm training her. Like, she would eat and I would shove my hand there, and she would growl and be like, no, I still want to shove my hand in there. So she learned, never bit me, but she learned, okay, that's fine if she's feeding me, So I managed to train her without realizing, because I wanted to spend so much time with her and we'd do things together. And she was very bonded with me. And we had another one of my big animals that had a big impact on my life, my childhood, was we had a goat. My grandmother always had one goat, like just one. I don't know why. She says they was for milk for me, but yeah, we only had just one goat. She had a huge gospodari with a lot of animals, but like farm type, how at home villages are. But my goat and the dog was the ones that I would like socialize with. I don't know why. The goat is very fascinating for me, and the dogs too. So my Dina and the goat would my grandmother would send me to take her to pasture. So would have like you tie her to like a tree or something, and my goat was very stubborn, as goats are, and if I was ever late to pick her up and she got bored, she would remember it, and she would walk nicely. She never gave me issues. She would walk nicely, and then all of a sudden she would just start pulling until I fall down, just to punish me because I came too late. And then the days when I didn't, she never did that. So I realized that there's like a pattern here of behavior that's happening. And then once my dog came into my life, my dog started like barking at her. So the goat did not like that because because she couldn't get her revenge on me.
I think a little more years and you could understand what they were talking about.
Yes, my dog would like kind of snap at, no, I never bit her, but like would pretend that he's like going for her feet and she would stop. So yeah, my dog would kind of making sure that all my animals are intact, you know. And it was, if I was, my grandmother would send me to like take the little geese out for some pasture, then my dog will gather them around like a good herd dog that she was.
What
So
was her
yeah,
name?
and Dina, that was Dina. So
Dina was the dog, but about the goat?
oh, the goat, Zorka. I think my grandmother just called her Zorka. I don't think she had a name. It was just a white goat. She was huge, and she had baby goats every other year. But then obviously around Easter they would disappear. So I learned not to bond with them as much as I wanted to bond with them. So I was bonding with the moms. So I don't have to face the tragedy of saying goodbye to my beloved pets.
Yeah, the mom was too old.
Yeah, the mom was fine. So the mom kind of knew me, you know, and she would like reluctantly come out, like when she would hear my voice when I would go to on holidays and stuff. She would hear my voice and she would poke out and just kind of like say hi, and then she would go back in. She wouldn't be too excited about it, but she would like acknowledge me, right? And for me that was enough.
She was your second best friend there.
Yes. So we would socialize because she had so much personality. You know, if she didn't like something, she would let me know. So I'm used to being very direct in life because I feel like my role models were very much the friends they imprinted on me, you know, the goat and the dog. Unfortunately, I couldn't bring her to the city, and I didn't really feel like it was a good place for her because she liked running around like crazy. She was everywhere, and she was a very good guard dog because she would run so fast. So she never bit anyone. She was the nicest, cuddliest dog, but she would bark, very yappy bark, you know. So we would alert the rest of the dogs, and then everyone else would join into the crowd. So she was like, my grandmother would call her our bell because she would run around like a bell. And my parents and my grandmother was very dismissive in some way to my dog. They just thought, she's just playing with him because it's a small puppy, blah, blah, blah. And one year, my grandmother she was breeding rabbits. She had about 50 rabbits at one point. She had a whole area for them, and she had different cages stacked up, and she was like breeding them. My dad was clearing the yard out, and he decided to have a bonfire to get rid of all the wood and pieces of stuff that he found. And he put the fire out, he thought, and everything was fine. And it was behind the rabbit area. So middle of the night, we hear rabbits screaming, like full on. I don't know if you ever heard rabbits screaming. They scream like,
never.
I compared them to when you watch cartoons and you walk into a lady that's naked and that scream. You know, they scream like go YouTube it. They scream like a lady that you walked in on her, like literally. Whoa. And you never really hear that, you know, so it was very weird for us to hear the screaming. And my grandmother was quickly looking to open the door, and for some reason she couldn't open the door, and she realized that the rabbit cages are burning because my dad must have, you know, didn't realize sometimes you do put the fire out and in the middle is still, you know, burning a little bit, coals and stuff. So he didn't realize, and the wind must have moved them, and they went into the rabbits. And while my grandmother was struggling to open the door, we finally managed to open the door like 20 minutes later, but it was full on flames everywhere. And they were quickly putting it out, and they realized that a lot of cages are empty. Like there's no rabbits in there, no burned rabbits, nothing. There's no rabbits. and the open doors as well. Like the doors were open and the cages were empty, and there was no rabbits running outside really. I think there was like one or two that got out, and the rest of them, we're like, where are the rabbits? What happened? My grandmother thought that someone might have like broken in and stolen them. While they were investigating, I'm looking for my dog because there was a fire, and I look at my dog, and my dog is burnt. Like she's got patches of like her face was burned. Wasn't too bad, but her face was burnt a little bit, and the hair, it looked like it was burned. And we're looking at the dog, and I'm like, what happened to my dog? And my grandma is looking at the dog. She starts investigating around the rabbits, and there was a barrel that she put out for winemaking that was put out to dry. And we look in the barrel, and there are the rabbits, because my dog broke into the cages and was gathering the rabbits and put them. Some of them suffocated because they were on top of each other, but she was trying to save them basically. And she shoved herself in the fire to save the rabbits. And she never ate, like didn't go to like murder them or anything. Never really had interest. You know how dogs are. She just collected them in that barrel. It wasn't many of them because we did manage to get out and stop the fire, but it was good, like 10 rabbits in there, the empty cages that she managed to get out. And we were shocked. After that, my dog was so happy because my grandmother was feeding her salami. She was the most spoiled dog in the village. She was eating sausages and salamis and all kinds of nice foods. And then my grandmother started would talk to her. I noticed that I'd wake up in the morning and I would hear my grandmother talking to someone. I'm like, who's my grandmother talking to? And I realized she would talk to my dog. She started talking to my dog. And I had her from 7 years old up to I think I was 14. And well, my grandmother really bonded with her. So when I was at school in Chisinau, my grandmother had a bond with my dog, and they would go out together and stuff. And the dog would follow us. So she would take my grandmother to the shop and then come back home. And around 12 o'clock, when it's home time, she would walk into the shop, and you could see dark night outside. And you see the little face poking in, be like, let's go, come on. And my grandmother would be like, okay, yeah, I'm coming. She would talk to her like she was part of the family. And then my parents would talk into the dog, it became our dog, collectively our dog. And every time I'll come to the village, it only took me once or twice to call her name, and she would appear out of nowhere running like crazy. Another funny story that she liked to make her puppy nesting under the rabbits' cages. And one day I come in, and they're 5 puppies, and I'm playing with the puppies, everything's fine. And then next day I come in, there's 6 puppies, and I'm like, that doesn't happen. That there's more puppies than one. Okay, I guess there was another one. And then I start playing with that one, and that one is kind of fluffier and smaller than the other puppies. And then I look at its nose, and it's a rabbit that fell out of the cage, and Dina just adopted. And it was part of the pack. And I don't know what my grandmother did. I showed it to my grandmother. He stayed there for a couple of weeks, and then I don't know what my grandmother did with it, because obviously the mother is not going to accept it anymore because it smells of dog. So yeah, she must have kicked it out, because rabbits do that when they have too many. They kick some out, weaker and stuff. So yeah, my Dina decided to adopt that rabbit. So basically, because my dog was so good at protecting our territory, and she was so loved by everyone, my grandmother was very protective of her after that. There were people that were trying to come in and steal chickens, rabbits, food from my grandmother. And because she lived alone, throughout, my granddad died when my mom was 17, so she lived alone most of her life. People knew that if she's at the store, then it's free for all. You can come in and take whatever you can find.
Yeah, pick some stuff.
Yeah, and my Dina was causing too much havoc, because then now all of our dogs would start barking. They couldn't sneak in, And I had a neighbor that attempted a couple of times to poison my dog, and every time uh, she would come feeling sick. I didn't know how to treat dogs, but I remember that I had no idea what to give them or anything, but I knew I have to give them painkillers. And thank God we don't have paracetamol in Moldova, because now I found out paracetamol is toxic for dogs. But I was giving her aspirin. So I would give her a little bit of crushed aspirin with food, as a painkiller. And then I kept like force feeding them and they would be better, When I was 14, I can't see one day, summertime, I can't find my Dina. I go to my grandmother's shop, where's my Dina? I can't find my Dina. What happened? And I was calling her, I was really panicked and everything. And then some people tell us, oh, I saw her. She's on the dirt road behind your house. And so I quickly go and find her. And I find my Dina was murdered and tied up, so poisoned and tied up so she doesn't come home. And she was dumped in the middle of the road. So that's how my best friend was. Sorry for a dim story. But and from there, I kind of decided when I was 14 that I'm going to be a vet so I can gather all the homeless dogs in Moldova and save them, basically. And then that didn't work out. I moved to England.
Mhm.
And now I found out that one of the girls that was studying in England actually is trying to do this program. She's trying to at least neuter them all and try and rescue however many she can. And she did with 2 litters now. And she's, trying to like find money, from people. There's
Wow.
a program that's going on, and she does it privately, which I'm very impressed that there are more people that care about animals from home. At least even though I left, there's other people that do care about that, and I'm very happy. I was very happy to find that out.
That
Because
is really impressive.
there's this belief that dogs are aggressive. You never know what dog you're gonna get, but through my extensive experience of raising puppies and Dina's puppies and all kinds of dogs after that, I realized that there isn't really an aggressive dog. Is just unloved animal, really. Like, there isn't aggressive animals. It's just the
Yeah,
way you behave
just
with
as
them.
people.
Yes, and even if you rescue an older dog, you can still train it to be nice, and if they see that you love them, they change their behavior, because there's no need for them to bite you if you are taking care of them.
Now you're having the Maine cat, and he's kind of the dog. I mean, he's pretty big.
Yes, she behaves very much like a dog. She talks to us, she talks back. You can tell by her meows. She's got different meows and different vocalizations for different moods. There's the angry feed me one, there's the angry play with me one, and then there's like the yes or no while you talk to her or pet her. There'll be like small it's very nice. Yeah, and the dog training tips I was telling you before was helping me even with the raising my brother when he was little, because in England it's very promoted to train your animals with positive reinforcement. So you associate everything, all the wanted behavior, with nice things like food or petting or like, giving them attention. And basically on the same theory, I was training my brother to read and write. My mom did not like it, but it worked very nicely. Obviously, I wasn't talking to him like with the dog, but like if he did something nice, I would give him give him reinforcement for that. So yeah, I feel like if you people that kids in general that grow up with animals, they tend to be more humane in some way. The humanitarian side is more developed. I realized that throughout my life, really, I tended to gravitate towards people that had animals, because for some reason would have like a different connection. Because if you are caring enough for someone without expecting anything back, and you can keep them and take care of them and love them and treat them correctly, and then that makes you like a nicer person in general.
Yeah, but those kind of people, they appreciate values and not stuff,
Mm,
not materials. So
yes,
that's
yes,
why.
definitely.
Because what can
So
a cat or a dog give to you if not love and affection?
yes, yeah. And yeah, about the dogs being like their owners, very very much so, because you are training that dog, and that, oh, even the cats really, but cats have their own personality, so cats is a
Okay,
little
but
bit.
let's talk about Dina. I mean, she was your first experience. I mean, that story with the rabbits is really impressive. I mean, she showed you that you have a talent for communicating with the animals, or what were you doing? Training the
Training,
animals.
yes, yes.
Okay, but with Dina, what similarities did you have with her?
Well, similarities.
Yeah.
Well, we loved both our animals. Like, we knew that there was a, like, it was, she learned, she grew up with a schedule of feeding animals, and she would like pick me up and do it. I wasn't organized when, or in the moments where she would kind of like fall asleep and I'd start feeding them, she would come with me. And she was always very happy to see people. And
So
I
you're
feel like
happy to see people.
in my childhood I was kind of alone a lot of the times. So when I would see people around me and talk to me and Dina would behave very similarly and be like, hey. And maybe I was kind of, I feel like it's the other way around, that she trained me to trust people, because she was always so open towards them, and people were not always nice, but she was always so happy to like show, like, go belly up, show her vulnerable side. And that helped me as a child to kind of trust people, because uh, I was an awkward introverted kid. So I learned to kind of trust people through my animals, really. And it's funny how now I was telling you, we rescued another, apart from my cat that I have now. There's a cat that was left behind with my parents, Bruce. And Bruce, I realized that the people that Bruce is not interested in, that's the same people that I don't like the vibe of as well. Like, if Bruce is not happy with someone and runs away from them, like, it's pretty much the same person that I'm like, So I don't know what it is, who taught who, but there's like a vibration that we can pick up. I feel like other
Yeah.
animals trained me to notice. It's interesting that by watching the behavior of animals, you can really understand like the truths of humanity, I feel like. And
Wow, of humanity. That's a strong
no, but
word.
like, you can understand the behavior of people. You can understand this instinct of like fear, and they become aggressive because the animals are not really aggressive for no reason. There's
Yeah,
usually, they're cornered and they're in fear, and people are aggressive, and people are seen like, oh, he's just aggressive for no reason, but it's usually insecurities or something that's happening behind the scenes that he's just not telling you about,
right.
you know or they didn't process that throughout their life, or they didn't think of some childhood trauma or something. So I feel like it's the same principle that we work on. It's just we are more evolved because we have conscious thinking and like communication in some way more developed, while animals work very much on their instincts, and they listen to their instincts so much more.
And we are kids, we have more time to analyze our animals and the
Mm,
difference of people, of kids that had animals when
yes.
in their childhood and the ones that did not.
Mm,
So in that time, we in those years, we have the time to analyze them and to analyze their behavior, so that when we grow up and we meet new people, we also tend to do the same. And we
yes.
also have this analyze, like, okay, fine, what she will do in this situation or how she will
Yeah.
move. as you know your cat, what she will act, how she will act, she will
Yes.
be whatever. Um, so yeah, maybe here's another point how animals are helping us, because
Yeah.
I've got a cat just to be more responsible. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I was a responsible kid, a nice kid, but my mom said that fine, I'm allowing you to have a cat, but you have to pick all her hair, and she's your problem now. I mean,
Yeah, your responsibility. Yes, that's
yeah,
what we usually get animals for. I feel like kids in general, that's what they get the animal for to learn how to be responsible. Yeah.
you want to continue, I mean, training with only cats, dogs, or there could be appear some other species?
Um, well, I did. So now in uni, when I was doing bioveterinary science, we did a lot of. I didn't pick much of animal behavior modules because I wanted to do epidemiology, so I had to pick different modules. But when I had the chance, I picked one animal behavior module, and then I had another one, animal science, something like that. But it was also to do with studying animal behavior, different kinds of animals in the wild. And it's very interesting. Like, I would love my life to be where I would travel and help animals to like get along. Like in zoos, we did all kinds of enrichments. We studied how to do enrichments, how to figure out what's repetitive behavior out of boredom and what's not. And I'm very grateful for that knowledge, because as I told you before, like, I find the more I learned about animals and how they behave when they're territorial, or how they behave when they're mating, or how they behave when they're, like taking care of young and like defensive and stuff like that, I very much see similar behavior in humans in general, like the same defensiveness, the same insecurities, the same being even courting. Like, some men like to be very flamboyant while courting and very nice and give a lot of attention, and then once the deed is done, really, they like pull it back. And that's very like a animal instinct, and I kind of, it helped me to not judge people as much, because I understand that that's just how we are. That's
Yeah.
just instinct. And my grandma had pigs as well, and she had the main pig that was humongous, and I was afraid of her because she was huge. And but when there were piglets, I loved the piglets because they were tiny and I could handle them.
Oh.
And one year she had a piglet that was deformed, so it was paralyzed from the back down, and that was the only pig that we were allowed to keep in the house, because we would keep him in the house so the mother doesn't lay on him, because they have to move out of the way, because he couldn't use his back legs, he could only like
Oh.
kind of put on his front legs. So we were worried that she's gonna squish him, and we kept him in the house. And oh my god, did that pig love the TV and love to talk to us and sit next to us while we're eating. He'll just sit there next to us. And again, my grandmother, thank god, protected me from the trauma of finding out what happened to that pig. But he grew pretty big. He was, like, he had about half a year, and half a year pig is a big pig that was still chilling around our house and like walking around. He was separate. He was, again, because he wouldn't run too far, he was allowed to kind of walk around the yard by himself.
Question. Did he pass Christmas?
No, but we didn't have. I know that my grandmother bonded with that pig too, and I know there wasn't us that pig ended up on the table.
Oh, okay. I also have such kind of experience. I had a goose, and her name was Alina, and
Right.
she lived with us, I think, for 1 month. I don't remember. And then she disappeared. But she was, my mom gave her to my aunt. We are living in a flat, and
Yeah.
but my aunt is living in a big house. She's having a lot of
Yeah.
animals and so on. So my Alina served her purpose. I loved her a lot.
How did you
Yeah.
get a goose in a flat?
I don't know. I think it came from my aunt, and it was only one.
Right.
Yes, and she was alone, and probably when she was very small, they gave it to me. So
What
my
did
my
they
my
tell
brother,
you?
no, 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 no. My
How did you find out?
I grew up and I understood things.
Right.
Yeah, I love the fact that they are talkative, and when you're talking to them, when you're saying anything, I mean, they respond to it.
They respond, yes, they do. Yes, very much so. You know, the ones that are not afraid, usually they're afraid, and the males are the more domineering ones. If you have males and females, the females are usually like kind of standing behind me, like, okay, we're
Yeah,
gonna chill here. And the males are the ones that have the courageous and come towards you to investigate what's happening. So, I love
right.
I love the fact that my favorite revenge on the aggressive males, though, because you know, when you have males and females and there's not enough females, they tend to get very aggressive with females and like peck at their feathers and stuff. And I would sit there and watch who's the most aggressive one, and then in front of everyone, I'll go and pick him out of the pack to make him a little bit more vulnerable, so he leaves him alone for at least one day. Because if I manage to catch him, then he's not so dominant. I wasn't like hurting him or anything. I'll just pick him up, and that's, you know, and they like, you have to be like what's it called, sneaky and like strong and stuff. And if there's a human that makes you feel weak, you know. And I noticed that he would leave the females for like, he would kind of sit in a corner depressed because the females wouldn't listen to him anymore for at least a day. Then they will be back to it, but like at least that day, like that poor duck would have, there was one that was always beaten would have a break. Even with people like that, like people that tend to live with animals by themselves, they tend to become a little bit reclusive from people, because people always have like, there's more to people than with animals. And I found that a lot of old people in this country always have a dog or a cat or something, always, because it, like, that's the when people don't have the time of day for you, you know, there's always going to be someone that you can keep taking care of and have that. And it's very important in this country for older people to have pets, you know. And you always see older generation walking their pets in the park in the morning, and they're always very friendly. My mom likes making friends with our neighbors that have dogs, because she will usually at that time go to work, and all the generation will be, you know, walking their dogs. So she always says hi to them and stuff, and they remember her, which for my mom was very surprising, because, you know, she never really tried to say hi to them. But after a while, they started saying hi to her. She was like, okay, I need to talk to them because they're saying hi to me, and it's rude that I don't know them. And during lockdown, my poor mom was taking care of a lot of neighbors, because when they, you know, they started imposing the rules that you can't go out of the house, especially if you're vulnerable, my mom would bring them shopping and bring them food. Of the couple of neighbors that we had that were older in the neighborhood. So yeah, again, through walking the dogs, you make friends, especially in this country. I'm not sure back at home is different, but like I found that in big cities, people tend to be lonelier. So yeah, that's a way to definitely a great way to make friends.
Learning animals' behavior, that's a real cool stuff. Never thought about it seriously.
Yeah, that's sorry, a dinner meow. If you heard that,
Oh,
I'm yes, she's very loud. It's very loud. When you were saying about that you understand humanity through people, there's a famous quote that they say about vets. You know, you learn to teach, you learn to help humans. You help you know, you help a human. If you're a doctor, you help a human. If you are a vet, you help humanity. And based on that motto, I picked my job. Like
oh,
that's it.
you presented to us a lot of interesting stuff, and really, nice childhood memories with your friends, with your true friends. And
Yes.
I'm really thankful for that. And thank you for your energy. It was quite, it was a quite good one.
I enjoy that. I enjoy talking about my animals.
So if you will have any other stories, interesting stories, just ping me. I'm always ready to hear your stories. I do, I do really love your comments on that and what to say, um, your lessons.
Yes, there is a lot of lessons to be learned from animals. Animals were before us on Earth, so why wouldn't we learn from nature and animals? Because they lived on Earth for much longer than we did. If you believe in obviously evolution, that depending on religious beliefs, I guess.